This is big breaking emergency news. We are now seeing another city being taken over and overrun by these criminal gangs that are coming to our country. And in response to this, we are seeing the military, the National Guard, the U.S. Army, and even U.S. Marines are now being seen on the streets of major U.S. cities right now in response to this and to deal with this crisis. All right, so let's get into all the details here really quick, guys. Just please hit that like and that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos a day, normally keeping you guys updated, and it helps to get these warnings out. I appreciate that. All right, so this is another major U.S. city. Okay, we have this situation in Aurora, Colorado happening right now. And this city, what we see happening here, troops on the street, U.S. Marines are being seen on the street right now, and the military is taking over entire buildings to prevent things like this that are happening in Aurora from happening right now in New York City. Okay, we have a major military presence, and they're out in the open and they're standing on the streets guarding and protecting these hotels and these buildings. Okay, we have new video coming out. Reporters are taking video of these scenes that are happening at multiple different hotels inside New York City. So we could see a very similar situation happen in Aurora as well too. We could see the National Guard and the military deployed there too. They said the governor of New York asked them to come here, and they're responding to this crisis that they're dealing with. Okay, there's also reports that this TDA gang, this Tren de Aragua, is now taking over parts of New York City too. I'm going to play you guys a local news segment on that in just a second. But let's get into details of what's happening at multiple different hotels inside New York right now. So this is currently happening at the Hotel Wolcott and also the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, and multiple other hotels, dozens of other hotels, but those are the ones confirmed right now that we have. The Hotel Wolcott and the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City have been taken over by the U.S. military and converted into, quote, migrant shelters. Okay, so they're housing thousands of people that have come across the border. They are now being housed in these shelters, and the only way to keep order is to have the military involved. All right, so check out screenshots of this video. Okay, this is from crowdsource the truth, and he was walking around New York City and he was shocked to see that there were military officers standing outside of this hotel, and he was saying, hey, can I stay at this hotel? What's going on here? I thought this was a hotel I can stay at. And they were telling him that they've been ordered by the governor to come here at the request of the state. Okay, and they were telling him that this is a migrant shelter center. All right, and these two people were standing outside. All right, and he went inside to ask some more questions, and there were multiple other uniformed officers inside as well too, from the U.S. Army and U.S. Marines. So this is a major operation. This isn't even just the National Guard. We are also seeing the Marines involved here as well too. So this is putting a strain on our military. We now have military guarding hotels in the middle of New York City instead of guarding our country and protecting our country and even protecting our southern border. They're now just protecting hotels instead of preventing the problem from happening to begin with. Okay, so that's what's happening at the Hotel Wolcott. We also have reports that this TDA gang is taking over parts of New York too. I'm going to play a segment from local news for you guys in just a second, but it says here that the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City, there was also Army personnel outside as well too, and it says at the bar next door there were Marine personnel there too, right? And it's also being reported that Air Force and Navy, so we pretty much have a mix of the entire U.S. military is stationed at dozens of hotels across New York City right now, and it's openly visible, right? This is very obvious, and It's kind of like a open secret that's happening here. And part of the reason they have the military here is because these gangs are trying to take over buildings and gain ground as well too, and they need the military to keep order, right? It says here that law enforcement officials say that this TDA gang has been using WhatsApp in New York City to recruit, quote, migrants, right? That's what they're saying here. And we have a warning from the deputy inspector of NYPD's Crimes Against Persons unit. All right, I want you to listen to this report here of what's going on in New York City as well too. And this is coming to Aurora, Colorado. All right, they're already a little bit further down the line in New York, but this is what's coming to Aurora: is military personnel on the streets, guarding apartment complexes, guarding buildings and things like this to keep order. Okay, listen to this here of what's going on inside New York City right now too.
There's new concerns about a wider criminal network involving migrants.
All right, police are linking them to a string of moped robberies here in the city, and they say they're being recruited by kingpins.
Fox 5's Linda Schmidt joins us now with a closer look at how this operation allegedly works. Linda.
Yeah, hi there, Steve and Natasha. Well, first of all, the NYPD says the criminal network is so far comprised of mostly Venezuelan migrants, and the crimes that they are committing here in the city can not only physically hurt you, but they can also wipe you out financially.
What are we looking at?
NYPD Inspector Nicholas Fiore and the Crimes Against Persons unit have their hands full with a surge in crimes they say are being committed by a crew of Venezuelan migrants. How big of a problem is this right now in the city?
This is tremendous.
We have seen the chilling videos. One, sometimes two suspects on a moped jumping the sidewalk, yanking cell phones and jewelry from victims. A 62-year-old woman in Brooklyn was recently dragged down the sidewalk. Inspector Fiore says these types of crime patterns have nearly tripled since the migrant surge into the city.
From April of 2023 to January 2024, it was 160 patterns versus the time period the year prior when they were not in this country, it was 62 patterns.
Cell phones are a hot commodity that could wipe you out financially.
There was a tech guy in the Bronx that was able to hack into the phone in less than 3 minutes and empty your bank accounts. That money got sent to separate places from Miami to Texas.
He says the phones are then shipped to Colombia and Venezuela.
You could then take that phone and sell it for $1,000, $1,500.
Fiore calls it a sophisticated operation that is orchestrated from outside the U.S., and the criminal network is expanding.
There are orders coming from Colombia and Venezuela to Miami and then to New York.
Kingpins here are contacting migrants in the city on WhatsApp.
Those go to shelters all over New York City. If you're stealing the phones, it could be $300 to $600 per cell phone.
In December, the NYPD was alerted the brutal Venezuelan gang called Tren de Aragua had made it across the border into New York. Their savage, bloody crimes are similar to the MS-13 gang.
We were working off intelligence that there was an MS-13-like crew that was coming to America and committing these crimes. Not one of our perpetrators had admitted to being in a gang or a crew or MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, but it's not out of the picture.
And the NYPD stressing once again, and they have said this so many times, they really want to get this point across here, that most of the migrants coming here are not committing crimes. This is a small group that is gradually growing, though, and doing a lot of damage. And the NYPD is working around the clock to get them. Steve and Natasha, back over to you.
All right, so that was the full report there coming out of New York City. Okay, and that was one of the lead investigators for the NYPD who's been looking into this for months now, and he's saying that there's been reports and alerts of a massive influx of this TDA gang from Venezuela into New York City as well, and they think that they're committing organized crime all throughout the city. Okay, and one of the main things that they're also worried about there too is these snatch and grabs phone robberies. Okay, so they have these scooter gangs. They'll run up with 10 people, 20 people on these Vespa scooters and snatch your phone right out of your hand if you're just standing around with your phone or something like that, or snatch your bag. And then they're saying that they use these phones to drain people's bank accounts. All right, that's what's going on here all throughout New York. And it's one of these things where everything's tied to our phone. So if you lose your phone, you kind of lose access to all of these things, and it makes your life very difficult. You're going to have to start from scratch and restart over all your accounts. Everything's linked to it now these days. So that's one of the main things that they do to generate funds. And they also sell the phones as well too. He's saying overseas, and they can get thousands of dollars for that too. So this is happening in multiple different cities. This organization has been allowed to take root inside the United States. And I want you to listen to some of these numbers, because this is shocking, right? The numbers that are coming out of Venezuela, right? This is what we're being told here, is that Venezuela makes up the largest share of arrivals in New York City beginning in 2022, with more than 7 million refugees and migrants that have left Venezuela, a country of 29 million people. All right, so 7 million people have left. There's only 29 million people. Okay? It's like a fourth of their country has left. A quarter of their country is gone. And a massive percentage of those people have ended up in the United States. So we just have to absorb almost a quarter of an entire country. And a lot of what's going on in Venezuela is chaos, okay? And a lot of people that are being allowed to leave are not, they're releasing the prisons and the jails. They've been doing this for years now, okay? Instead of locking up their criminals and paying for it, because they're in a economic crisis right now with inflation and their economy and sanctions. There's a lot of things going on with Venezuela. And instead of paying for people to lock them up, they've been sending them out, just releasing them, saying, get out the country. And a lot of these people end up in the United States because the benefits that are offered and provided are attracting these groups and organizations and give them a base to get started, right? They get started with this, and then they perform more organized crime rings like we're seeing now in multiple different states, okay? They're also running rings where people have to pay them rent, okay? They're taking over apartments and buildings, and they're paying them rent, people that are staying there, to not get harassed and kicked out by these groups. This is what's happening in Colorado, and even the mayor of Aurora admitted that on live news, okay? And it says here, the mass migration from Venezuela over the past few years is the second largest external displacement crisis in the world, according to the United Nations. All right, so second largest movement of people in the world, and the United States is absorbing this, okay? And long term, these are things that could affect the country, potentially affect votes if any type of legalization happens or other things going on, okay? Could affect all these things long term. Change demographics, okay? Make certain demographics in certain areas, their voting power is diminished, okay? Some of these districts, there's only like 500 people voting, 1,000 people that are voting, but it's critical because it's part of the greater district for the city, and everyone counts, okay? So these 500 people voting is important, but then if there's 1,000 more people that just moved in, 2,000, 5,000 people that just moved in from a different country, and they have different priorities, different voting stances, and they're given power to do that, that could completely change the demographics, even if just a small percentage of them are giving voting rights, right? And we've seen pushes for that. That's being pushed openly. So there's a lot of things going on right now. Multiple U.S. cities are being disrupted. So please, guys, just hit it up for me down there. Hitting that like and that subscribe, it just helps getting these warnings out. I appreciate that. I'm trying to bring you guys the latest intel and info on all this stuff going on. I'll have lots more updates going on in Colorado too. I have a few more updates that I will bring you guys here in the next 24 to 48 hours. Lots of big things going on. I appreciate all the support and all the new subscribers and everyone watching. I hope you guys have big blessings for your life, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.